Hey everybody, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we're talking with the lovely Amanda Keeles. How are you doing?
I'm good, Tom. Thanks for having me today.
It's my pleasure. I love always getting to learn more about new artists that come across my table. So we're gonna get to pick your brain a little bit and see what makes you tick.
Okay, sounds good.
So first things first, can you give a little bit of a intro about you and your music and kind of what you bring to the world?
Sure. I have been songwriting and singing since I was a teenager. I had entered my songs in a lot of songwriting competitions and had won a lot of country singing contests along the way. And as I life went on, I married and children, and there was a pause there where I didn't do my music, and and it was about 7 years ago that I was no longer married. We didn't share the same interest or passion, and that love of music never really left me. As
Hmm.
much as you kind of bury it, you know if you're with a partner that doesn't share that same passion, but it never really left me. So 7 years ago, 7 years ago, I went out on my own, and I started bringing my music back out again. I took those songs and I started recording them. I went in the recording studio, started putting them out to radio this past year, and and it just fills my heart. Anybody who's a musician that has this passion, they know what I'm talking about. It's
Hmm.
something that never really goes away. You can bury it, but it never really goes away. And so this past year, I left my job and I started doing this full time. And Tom, it has been fantastic.
It
Never look
seems
back.
seems like
Yep,
it's going pretty good for you.
loving it, loving
Hmm.
it.
Do you remember like a first album or a first song that really, when you were younger, that's like, oh damn, music's my passion and this is why?
I grew up with a lot of different types of music. So in my household when I was younger, there was the classic country. It was
Hmm.
really my mom that introduced me to the old country, and my brothers had the rock in there. So I really had a mixed uh, genres. So when I was writing, uh, even now today, so when I'm writing, you can kind of hear that classic country feel to it, and I don't even know that I'm writing it. It's just
Hmm.
it's just kind of a part of me. But I think it was mostly the country music, the old country music, that started me really becoming aware that I loved performing. I loved singing every chance I got. So I think that really started from just such a young age.
If you had to pick one artist as the top inspiration, who would you say that would be?
For my songwriting, even though I'm country,
Hmm.
uh, for Canada, I would have to say Jan Arden.
Okay.
It was her songwriting. I really find her songwriting very deep and
Hmm.
unique. And listening to that, I started digging deeper into my own songwriting. So, funny enough, when someone say who is kind of your inspiration as far as songwriting, it was Jan Arden. I think is where it kind of started.
And I mean, she puts together a story in her music, which is kind of country in its own too. So,
Yeah, yeah, very true, very true.
hmm,
She's got a very, very unique way of writing.
yeah.
So, and my writing, I really take it from experiences that I've gone through, that I've lived through. I put myself in the shoes of the person or situation that I'm writing about.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how I write. Is I write from looking at the kind of the topic from the writer's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
How would you say the music scene is in your local area with, there's a lot of people out there. Is it bustling right now? Is it kind of quiet? What's it like for you?
Yeah, well, I'm from Ontario, so I'm from London, Ontario.
Hmm.
I come out to Calgary, Alberta, and I come to MCC Studios because they are like the 5-time CCMA Studio of the Year winners. So
Hmm.
when I first started thinking about where to record, I went to the best of the best, and that's why I came out here. But yeah, Ontario is a big country music scene too.
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised by that. But yeah, and I found it very welcoming, which is something for an artist that is new on the scene. It can be difficult, right, to kind of
Hmm.
crack in and get those relationships and connections going. Tom, I've been very fortunate to had a lot of other artists and other industry people who have been willing to help me along the way, give me guidance, advice, and put some solid music together with
Hmm. My,
myself.
my home base is actually here in Ottawa, so I'm familiar with kind of the local area country scene. It's pretty interesting for sure.
It is. Yeah. And even like London, country artists come to London and that Budweiser is, it's sold out. It's
All the
sold out
time.
months in advance.
Yep.
So there's a lot of country fans in Ontario as
Now,
well as across Canada. Me being from Ontario and looking from it from that angle, yeah, they definitely have a good country scene.
now, since you spend time in Calgary when you're recording, what do you think? How do you think the scene differs? They're two vastly different places, so there's got to be a bit of a unique experience that way.
It is different. I find that when I come out here, I always tend to perform when I'm out here.
Hmm.
I've being working within this studio has allowed me to meet some very, very good musicians and artists. So every time I'm out here, I always tend to go out and sing wherever there's some of the musicians are playing, which is
Hmm.
great. But yeah, it is a different feel out here. Western Canada is it's cowboy country,
Yeah,
right? So it is a different scene. Um, but I find it welcoming both, no matter where I am. But yeah, I think every province kind of has their own different country feel.
for sure.
I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like
well,
it's
I so funny enough, I was born in Alberta, so I lived in Calgary for a couple of years. I was an army brat, so I moved back and forth a bunch, but my experience when I was younger is vastly different than what you would expect between Ottawa and Calgary. So it's unique to see other people's points of view on that.
Yeah. Yep. No, I do. I do see a difference. I do feel a difference, but in a good way. Like both if you have an artist from Ontario, an artist from Alberta, the music is still good. Like the music's
Hmm.
still the same. So, I don't find that it's like they always say, well, it's like a country music family, right?
Hmm.
But I find that the camaraderie, the openness to work together is good between provinces across Canada.
For sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of different artists, who are you listening to that you think people should be listening to more? They might not be on enough radars.
As far as other artists,
Other
like
artists that you think that people should be paying more attention to.
you mean like either independent or up and coming?
Anyone that comes to your mind.
Um, well, being this year and meeting some newer artists like myself, um, there's out here in Alberta, there is a gentleman by the name of Brandon Lorenzo
Okay.
that I'm telling he is a fabulous singer. In Ontario, there is some good female country singers,
Hmm.
um, like Nicole Ray, right?
Yeah,
She's a wonderful, wonderful singer. Um, there's a when they said there's diamonds in the rough, there is a lot of us out there, right? There's a
yeah,
lot of artists that are up and coming. I do think that there is an audience for everyone though,
for
because
sure.
everybody has their different way of recording their country music, but I, whether it's the older, they have the older classic or the more modern country pop, there's an audience for everyone.
Yeah, everyone's going to be able to take their own little piece of it. The digital community now for music is
Yeah.
insanely big. So
Yeah, I agree.
now, I like this question. I find it a little bit more intriguing. Do you have a guilty pleasure song that's on your playlist that people might not think you're listening to?
Gee, a guilty pleasure song. Oh my gosh. I really like rock music. I sing country, but I say I'm a classic rock lover who
Mm-hmm.
sings country music. So I do like the older classic music. Like as an example, I'm going to be out on the road starting in February, and in my shows, I've got some Journey in there. I've got some
Okay.
Triumph. Remember Triumph?
I do actually. Yeah, I have them on
So
one of my playlists.
you know what? That is some music that people they're gonna say, "Wow, I haven't heard that in a long time." But that is some, that's good music. That's good classic rock.
It gets
So
you kind of motivated a bit more when you hear that at the start of a show.
yeah, yeah. So throughout my songs, you're gonna be hearing a little bit of rock in there.
Nice. I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was brought up on country kind of, and then the classic rock a bit as we got older, but now I'm a lover of everything. So, but one of my favorites is like 90s and 2000s hip hop. So I have some really interesting stuff on my playlist that all over the place. You wouldn't guess anything for sure.
Really,
Hmm.
isn't that neat, right? Like
Hmm.
it's neat to kind of expand your what you're listening to, because so many, as a songwriter, so many different ideas come from that.
Yeah, and there's I'm part of a group that does um song reviews. So I get people send me stuff every so often. And I found one diamond in the rough that it put on my playlist straight away. It's a German guy who does ballad orchestral kind of remixes with like Beethoven and stuff like that, but he puts really like operatic feel into it. And I don't know, it's something that's just been on my playlist on repeat for a long time now.
And it's different, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there
for
is
sure.
there is one artist that is up and coming, and she's from Nashville. Her name's Taylor Austin Dye.
Okay.
And I did a interview with a Branson, Missouri station, and she was interviewed the same night as I was, and one of her songs was spun during her interview, and I added it to my set list immediately.
Hmm.
It was, picking up these songs that aren't really familiar, and then seeing them come to light, and everybody's like, wow, that is the greatest song, and I'm thinking, I heard that like 6 months ago.
Yep.
So
Well, speaking of new songs, one of the main reasons we are here talking today is you have a new single, Saving Grace, I believe, is recently or coming out soon.
yes, yep, it went out to radio last Friday,
Okay.
so it hasn't been out quite a week yet.
Can you tell us a little bit of a story behind that one?
So Saving Grace, I wrote around the kind of the idea of being in a space where you're kind of isolated and feeling like you can't get out, like you're feeling lost, you're feeling like you need an outlet or a place to go. And Saving Grace can it can be different for everyone. So it can be, like in the song it says, I close my eyes and think of you because you're my saving grace. So saving grace could be a person, right?
Hmm.
You could maybe think back of a person that brings you joy, maybe a place or a time in your life that made you happy. Saving grace to some people could be a greater belief. It can be any place that takes you to a better place when you're feeling lost or down. So I wrote around that idea, and I went with the story of thinking of back to a younger place when I was like a first love, or when I, a relationship where you had that euphoric feeling of
Mm-hmm.
being in love for the first time. And the music video really revolves around that and tells the story of that. So that's where Saving Grace came from.
And I actually kind of felt the same a bit too, with the young love and kind of how things can go distant and things like that when I first listened to the song also.
Yeah. And you never forget, right? You always have that one relationship that maybe took you to, like I said, that euphoric feeling that you won't forget.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it goes, if you pass, you keep going and the relationship doesn't last, you never really forget it. Doesn't matter how far you go in your life, you don't really forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we talked a bit about you're bringing your music back and everything. So what's your actual process like when you're putting together a track like Saving Grace, for instance?
So all my songs they start on piano. So
Okay.
I do just basic piano, my voice. And when I come into the studio, I'm working with Johnny Kasparic. He is so talented. He hears my songs, and he can hear where to place certain instruments that will bring it to life. And every song I've brought to him. So I've recorded with him now for over a year. I was very fortunate that he decided that he would record with me.
Mm-hmm.
He is like a two-time Western Canadian Country Award winner engineer. He has just such a talent for knowing what is needed within a song. So I am so lucky to have him. So I bring in my simple little songs to him, and I say, this is it. This is the lyrics. This is the melody. And together it just comes to life. We get some really outstanding musicians in. And yeah, I'm telling you, the first time, one of my songs came to life, I was in the booth and I was so choked up. They didn't know this, but I was like tearing because I was like, wow, that song just exploded. So
Is
it's neat to hear.
is there difficult points when you're putting together a song, like you just can't get over that a hump of, I don't know why this doesn't feel right, or when you're putting together something like that?
Um, when it comes into the studio, it stays pretty much the same as I've written it, but I really listen to Johnny's expertise when he tells me, you know what, I think we need a pause here. I think we need your voice to go up here, and he's spot on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I really listen to his expertise when it comes to that.
Okay.
But the song itself, it's the song I wrote. Like it's just so much more. It's such greater. Yeah.
Well, it's coming to life at that point. So once you can see everything, it's like, oh wow, this just went this much more.
Yep. Yeah. It's crazy.
Now, we kind of touched a bit on the idea of the digital world of music. How do you think social media and other platforms like that has played a role in helping you get out there to the world?
So things have really changed, right? That
Mm-hmm.
anybody can get their music out there now. So I think the social media is an excellent way to be able to share your music. I think it's a great platform. I have to be honest with you that when I was working, my job took up pretty much all my time when I was working. So I didn't do a lot of social media. So it's been a learning curve for me this year, because that is a universe of its own.
Oh yeah,
Social media. It's
you're not
like,
wrong.
it has been a real learning, but I'm getting it. Like I'm like a year in now, and I'm thinking I'm getting it. But I think that especially with all the platforms that you can share your music, you can really get great lengths with it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even like the Facebook and the Instagram, at one time, it'd be like Canada, US that you'd really kind of, but you can be worldwide, like in the click of a button.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really changed the way that an artist can get their music out there. It's really simplified it. It's a busy space out there, though. I'll tell you, it's a lot of people.
Oh yeah, it's definitely nonstop and always moving forward.
Yeah. And even putting it out to radio, I have a distributor and a promoter, a tracker. It's a busy spot, right? Those program directors get a lot of music that comes across their desk constantly. So
yeah, it makes for an interesting time for sure. And I talk with a lot of different artists, different levels, and from young to seasoned vets, and they all say the same thing. It's a whole wide universe, and it's getting your foot in the right spot.
it is. It's honestly, it's having the right person hear it, right? The right person like it. So it's a lot of relationship building, right?
Yeah.
And collaborating, and yeah.
Now, with all the crazy stuff that's involved with music, how do you keep yourself grounded and make sure that your mental health and everything is good to keep pressing forward?
Well, music brings me so much joy, Tom. I'm like, I love writing. That's a excellent outlet for me. So, when you hear some of my songs, you'll always, it's derived from something within my life, something I've heard, or keeping myself grounded. I would say I take a lot of feedback and right. So if somebody says, I think this can be done better, I take it as very positive recommendations and criticism. I don't get too caught up in the race to, to have something done by a certain time. I find that this year has been a real learning year for me, being in the business. And with the pace it's really like, it's taken off faster than I ever imagined, but I've been able to enjoy every minute of it. It hasn't gone too fast, and it's not moving too slow that I can't say that the momentum is building, and I'm loving every minute of it. Yeah. And, keeping family and friends and remembering where you came from, staying humble, being appreciative for everyone who helps you along the way. I think that kind of keeps you grounded.
For sure. I always like to look at feedback as a good thing, because someone's actually taken the time to remember and to think about your song or whatever it is, that it makes them think, wow, this actually could be something enough. Maybe this would help it.
Yeah, that is an excellent way to look at it.
Yeah, because if they're not taking the time to offer feedback, then it didn't hit them enough to stick for them to actually think about it.
Yeah, that's very good way to look at it, for sure. Yeah. I don't like since day one, I have always thought, some people are gonna absolutely love it, and then other people are gonna, it all depends on people's tastes and what they like. But yeah, like I said earlier, there is always an audience. It doesn't matter what kind of music you make. Yep. There's going to be somebody out there that's going to like to listen to it.
You're not wrong. I have a couple fun questions that I always keep near the end of my interviews, just to see, this is the what makes you tick part, to see kind of how you think about things.
Okay.
First one, and this is what I call the great debate, because it's a different answer for every person. Do you think a hot dog is a sandwich?
I have to say, I've never been asked that. I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say yeah. And do you have to say why?
I mean, if you have some insight, because a lot of people ask this question to other people, and it's different every time.
The hot dog is the middle of the sandwich, surrounded by by bread. So I'm going to say, yeah.
But see, it made you think for a second. You had to stop and go, wait a minute, what the hell?
Okay, what about you? Do you think it is?
So I like to think it's a sandwich because if you look at something like a sub sandwich, it's the same idea with the cut bread and that. But I can also see where people look at it as it's its own standalone thing because that's just what it is too. It's a standalone object.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an
That's deep,
interesting one,
Tom. That's a deep one.
right? I'd throw a couple of those curveballs in there for you. Now, I like this one. It's because it kind of gives me an idea of just who you're looking at. Who plays you in the movie of your life?
Wow. Who plays me in the movie?
Who do you think does you justice?
Holy. These are thinkers. These are
Mm-hmm.
thinkers. Who would play me? That is like a
Anyone,
actor.
actor, musician, someone like anyone that you think would do you as a person that you feel would do you justice.
Wow. How about, okay, I got to think on that one. That's a tough one. Okay, you go first and I'll think.
So the biggest, I like for me, a lot of people say I look like Action Bronson for the hip hop artist who does a lot of things with food. He's beard, tattoos, kind of just generally, and I have a same kind of persona of him in some fashion too. So I think having someone like him play me in a movie would be outstanding. I think that would be an awesome one for sure.
That would be.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be neat? Wouldn't that be neat to see somebody like portraying you?
And like I get mistaken for him all the time because he's bald, he has a beard, and we kind of have the same general shape. So
You know, a couple people have said to me, I don't see it, but they have said, you remind me of Miranda Lambert, probably just because of the blonde hair. I don't see it.
I could see Miranda Lambert, yeah, because you're also you're happy, you're kind of you're more upbeat about things, and she has that tendency sometimes too in the public facing side of things.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I. That's the only thing I can think that some people have said. That's, you remind me of that person. Like just and I'm thinking it must just be the blonde hair, but
Well, I mean that definitely is a part of it.
yeah, I have to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now this one's a bit of a deeper question, and I ask this for everyone because I think it's the most interesting one.
Okay.
What is one thing you think should be asked more in an interview that's not asked enough?
Um. Hmm.
Now, I add to this
I've been
sometimes too of maybe something that you want to hear when you're watching an interview or just in general, something that you don't think is out there enough.
I've done a lot of different interviews, and I've always loved the question, what advice would you give to someone who is starting out and wants to do what you're doing?
Okay.
I always love that question because it will be different for every person that you ask, but I think that, you know, when someone is interviewed, a lot of people are listening because they want to hear. I think they're very fascinated by the story of what got them to where they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think I love hearing, you know, I came from here, this is what I went through, and this is what brought me to this point. Maybe because that's my own story, but I've always been fascinated about where people began.
Mm-hmm.
So I love when that question comes up in the interview.
Yeah, that one I like to. I do have. I alternate between a few different ones because you got to keep it a little bit fresh. But I do ask that one a lot of the time too because artists that are new and trying to read up on or listen to something, they want to know what kind of stuff that you had to go through when you came up in the industry.
Yeah. And another one is like, what is a defining moment in your life that completely changed the way that the path you took or the way you look at things, or That's another one, because a lot of people don't talk about defining moments of their life, and those defining moments is what makes the person who they are.
You're not
So.
wrong. I like that one. Actually, I haven't thought about. I'm writing that down right now. That I have my little notepad beside me here with all my stuff so I could jot things down. So I like that one. Cool. Now, what do you hope people take away from your music in the end of the day?
um I hope they hear the stories inside the songs, because every song that I write has a story around it. So you know, I I hope people can hear that, kind of the different phases of life that I've gone through in each of my songs, because I've written these songs at all different times.
Mm-hmm.
So they will all reflect certain, different periods. So I think one of the things that people are really kind of, take a second look at is the fact that my music, as much as I loved it, and as much as I wanted to do it, I set it aside for other reasons other than my own, right? For other people's wants, lived my life for other people and what other people saw that life should be. But now I got to a point after, decades, that now I'm living for what I want to do. And my music is just coming to light, and I'm living it. And I think I just want people to, when they hear it, that they get that, they feel that story,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they know that as much as I am new on the scene this year, um, I'm really not. Like, I've been writing forever. I really started to get a lot of momentum years ago, and unfortunately, I had to make the decision to not upset the apple cart, and kind of put my music aside,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of bury it for a while. And now I'm having the time of my life, Tom. I'm just it is like I've been reborn with my music. So I hope that people, when they hear it, they're going to hear some sad songs in there, reflective ones, but I've got some really upbeat ones, fun ones coming out early 2024, that I think everybody's going to really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a reflection of the fun that I'm having.
Well, you genuinely seem happy and in a good spot and having a great time at what you're doing. So that's always a bonus when you can feel that in the music too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I hope people can hear. And I always like to do hooks in all my songs that kind of people will remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they can kind of, they always say that people relate to a song or a music, but I hope they do, right? I hope they can get something out of it, like Saving Grace. Like, they will take that saving grace as whatever their saving grace is. But I hope that everyone will kind of be able to say, I can remember a period of my time that she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm hoping.
Well, and I think it's coming through. I think you're doing a good job at that.
Well, thank you.
So before we sign off here, because we're coming near the end, is there any kind of final words of wisdom you'd like to leave to listeners that would be new and old?
Um, well, after this single, the music video just came out. It came out 2 days ago. So, brand new music video. Please check it out on YouTube.
I'll link it in here
Love the
too. That way.
way it turned out. Roadhouse Productions did a fantastic job on it. And then starting in 2024 is when all the fun part of performing is going to begin. So my album, we're just finishing up the album. It will be ready to go. I will have singles released all throughout next year, and already have some shows lined up starting February, and it's going to be hitting the ground running all throughout 2024.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And if you're in the area, I'll try to get out to a show. But if not, I have team members all across Canada, so I'm sure we'll be able to catch you at one of your shows.
Oh, I'd love that. That would be fabulous.
Where can people find you on social media?
Well, my website, amandakeeles.com. My Facebook is Amanda Keeles Music, and I'm on Instagram, Amanda underscore Keeles, sorry. And yeah, I'm on Twitter. TikTok world
That's a
is
whole new one. Yeah.
that's a little fun. So
Mhm.
I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff on there when the performances start going out. That's going to be fun.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And I'll make sure I got your YouTube and everything. I'll link it all in the video description when we put this out.
Oh, that'd be great. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Not a problem. It was a pleasure getting to know more about you, learn about your music, and just kind of, like I said, what makes you tick.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really
I,
appreciate it.
I'm sure we'll have another conversation in the future. I always like to keep up with my new friends that we make here.
Oh, I'd love that. That sounds great.
Awesome. Well, you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will keep in touch.
Okay, sounds great, Tom. Thank you.
All right. Bye now.